Number 8. Rebecca Copeland. On July the 15th of 2021, a flash flood engulfed a rafting group's overnight campsite on the Colorado River, resulting in the death of a 29-year-old woman from Michigan. Rebecca Copeland of Ann Arbor was a member of the commercial rafting company that had originally launched at Lee's Ferry near the Arizona-Utah state line. After traveling roughly 40 miles downstream, the group decided to set up camp for the evening. The site was soon flooded by a torrent of water that swept through a narrow gorge in the canyon. The flash flood was reportedly caused by monsoon storms that had been active in the surrounding area throughout the week in which the incident took place. A total of 5 people were injured, one of whom was said to have been left in critical condition. According to a spokeswoman for the National Park Service, the wounded were bludgeoned by the logs and debris that had been displaced and swept up in the deluge. Copeland's body was found floating in the frigid water of the Colorado River by a different commercial rafting group. A self-described lover of the natural world, Copeland had taken the trip to Arizona just before she was set to begin a new job with the US's Department of Health and Human Services. Number 7. Maria Andrea Salgado Lopez. A 59-year-old sightseer took a fatal plunge off the south rim of the Grand Canyon on July the 3rd of 2020. The victim was identified as Maria Andrea Salgado Lopez, a Scottsdale resident who at the time was visiting the park with her family. According to the National Park Service, the accident occurred west of Mather Point as the woman was attempting to take a photograph. The Grand Canyon Regional Communications Center was first notified that a visitor had fallen at about 12:35 p.m. Later that day, Lopez's body was found by park rangers roughly 100 feet from where she'd initially lost her footing. In a cell phone video captured by a witness named Miriam Weiner, multiple men, women, and children can be heard shrieking in the moments before Lopez's fall. Miriam Weiner was exploring the park with her daughter for the first time when the incident took place. At the time of her fatal fall, Lopez was reportedly hiking on an unapproved trail outside of the purview of park rangers. Number 6. Daniel Nicole Long. On October the 3rd of 2020, a former Major League Baseball player was found dead at the Grand Canyon from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, only a day after he'd carried out the murder of his ex-girlfriend. Charlie Hager, aged 37, went to the Scottsdale apartment belonging to his former romantic partner, 34-year-old Danielle Nicole Long, on October the 2nd. According to findings from the ensuing investigation, the man fatally shot Long in her bedroom before threatening her roommate with a handgun. The latter managed to escape out the back door and subsequently ran to a neighbor's house, where she called 911 and reported the shooting. A SWAT team later arrived at the apartment and found Long's body, but by that time, Hager had already fled the scene. The next day, the man's abandoned car was located by the authorities in Flagstaff. His whereabouts remained unknown until about 4 p.m. on October the 3rd, when his body was found near the south rim of the Grand Canyon National Park, roughly 18 miles from where his car had been discovered earlier. Investigators deduced that Hager had taken his own life via a gunshot to the head. Hager's Major League Baseball career had spanned 5 seasons, during the course of which he played for the Chicago White Sox, the San Diego Padres, and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Number 5. Jonathan Crowden. A young Australian man was fatally struck by lightning as he was exploring the Grand Canyon National Park during a 2015 trip to the US. The holidaymaker was identified as Jonathan Crowden of Alfredton, a recent college graduate who was hiking alone on the afternoon of September the 13th. Crowden saw that the sky had begun to light up, but the exposed desert gorge offered very few places for the hiker to shelter himself from the impending threat of lightning. The canyon's communications center was notified of the event by a witness who claimed to have seen a man fall victim to a lightning strike. The 21-year-old's body was found roughly a mile down the South Kaibab Trail, near a viewpoint commonly known as the Uar Point. Paramedics attempted to resuscitate the victim, but their efforts ultimately proved futile, and Crowden was pronounced dead at the scene. According to the National Park Service, the Grand Canyon has been known to experience upwards of 25,000 lightning strikes each year. Number 4. The Skywalk Jumper. A 28-year-old man jumped into the Grand Canyon after climbing over a safety barrier in September of 2019. The unidentified individual was reported as a tourist who'd been visiting the horseshoe-shaped glass bridge at the canyon's Eagle Point, known as the SKYWALK. Constructed in 2007, the SKYWALK quickly became one of the park's most popular attractions. According to the United States Geological Survey, the 70-foot-long bridge was situated 4,770 feet above sea level, and the vertical drop directly below it measured between 500 and 800 feet. At around 4:30 p.m. on September the 28th, the young man hopped over the safety railing, ignoring the posted signs that warned tourists not to get too close to the edge. He then jumped into the gorge in an alleged intention to take his own life. Rescue personnel descended into the area below the bridge and recovered the man's body the following day. The SKYWALK was temporarily closed to the public in the incident's immediate aftermath. Number 3. KAITLIN Kenney. A 21-year-old woman drowned in the Colorado River after wandering off from the group of friends with whom she was rafting through the Grand Canyon. The body of KAITLIN Kenney, who studied anthropology and Native American cultures at the University of Montana, was found on March the 21st of 2013 by canyon visitors on a private river trip. The young woman had last been seen on the night of January the 11th, before she allegedly walked away from the campsite where her friends were gathered around a fire. The morning after her disappearance, witnesses reportedly found that her footsteps headed downriver. The authorities utilized a helicopter, in addition to on-foot rescue parties, to scour the area during the course of a 2-month search for the missing woman after her body was found floating in the Colorado River. It was taken to the Conconino County Medical Examiner's office. An autopsy revealed that Kenney's blood alcohol level had been 0.11 at the time of her death. Speculation arose that the young woman had also partaken in the consumption of hallucinogenic mushrooms on the evening of her demise, as she'd reportedly brought some with her on the rafting trip. The victim's brother told the Associated Press that Kenney was not a heavy drinker, but the group of friends she was accompanying revealed that they had boxes of wine and beer among their supplies. Today's topic was requested by Javo the Jeweler and Isai Villagas. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. The 2018 helicopter crash. A helicopter crashed into the Grand Canyon in February of 2018, resulting in the death of 5 British tourists. The members of the group on board the ill-fated aircraft were identified as brothers Stuart and Jason Hill, along with the former's girlfriend, Becky Dobson, and 2 of their friends, honeymooning newlyweds Ellie Millwood and Jonathan Udall. The group had taken the trip to the United States to celebrate Stuart's 30th birthday, and the recently married travelers had also planned to go to Las Vegas after the stop at the popular national park in Arizona. The National Transportation Safety Board determined that tailwinds, downdrafts, and turbulence were the most likely factors behind the fatal crash. The pilot, who ultimately needed both of his legs to be amputated in the aftermath, told investigators that he'd encountered a violent gust of wind prior to losing control of the craft. The only passenger to survive the incident was Jason's girlfriend, Jennifer Doricott, who was left with permanent, life-changing injuries. The pilot was reportedly conducting his 3rd air tour of the day when the tragic accident occurred. Number 1. Iona Hokiota. In February of 2012, a 24-year-old newlywed plummeted 300 feet to her death while attempting to become the youngest person to hike the Grand Canyon from end to end. Iona Hokiota was a Romanian immigrant who'd first moved to the United States with her mother and sister in 2002. She was introduced to the Grand Canyon by Andrew Hollycross, the man she'd eventually marry, in a ceremony that overlooked the canyon's valleys at the scenic Marble Viewpoint in June of 2011. Hokiota was an avid hiker who, according to her husband, had covered more than 850 miles of the Grand Canyon's trails during her lifetime. The couple loved the canyon so much that following the conclusion of their wedding ceremony, they even reportedly took some of their guests on a 25-mile hike. Upon graduating from Arizona State University with degrees in both mathematics and biology, Hokiota set a goal of hiking the entire canyon from one end to the other and becoming the youngest person to have ever done so. A section of the national park that she hadn't explored up to that point was a loop around the Great Thumb Mesa on the western end of the canyon. She planned to complete the 16-mile route over the course of 3 days and set out on February the 24th of 2012. Hokiota was accompanied by a hiking companion named Matthias Kowski, a math professor at the woman's alma mater. While trekking the Owl Eyes Canyon on the south rim of the park, Hokiota was walking on a path located on a higher ledge than where Kowski was hiking. The two were reportedly separated by a distance of roughly 20 yards. According to his account of the incident, Kowski first heard some small rocks fall from above him and then heard Hokiota let out a gut-wrenching cry. It's suspected that the hiker had stepped on a loose rock before fatally plummeting 300 feet to the rocks below. At the time of her tragic death, Hokiota was a mere 80 miles short of reaching her goal of hiking the entire canyon. Thanks for watching. Would you rather live in the dead center of the Grand Canyon or never have cell phone reception, no matter where you are? Let us know in the comments section below.